Administrative condition of Indo-Pakistan on the eve of Arab conquest of Sindh. The king was the head of administration, and he, to all intents and purposes, was a dictator. He combined all legislative, executive, judicial, and military powers in his person. Kingship was generally hereditary, but the example of Bhopal of the Pala dynasty of Bengal and Nandi Varman of the Pallava dynasty of Kanchi illustrates that sometimes the king was elected by the notable elements of the country. There were ministers to help and advise the king in the discharge of his kingly duties, but the king was not bound to accept their advice. The number of ministers depended upon the circumstances and requirements of the situation. The names of important ministers were Minister in charge of War and Peace, Minister of Records, Minister of Finance, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister of Religious Affairs. The empire was divided into many provinces. The head of a province was called Uparika, whose chief duty was to maintain peace and order in the province, to enforce the orders of the king, and to lead expeditions when ordered. A province was divided into districts called Vaishyas. A Vaishya was administered by the district officer called Vaishyapati. Village was the lowest unit of administration where the administrative functions were performed by the headman and the panchayat. The chief source of income of the state was land revenue, tributes from vassal chiefs, duties of excise, and merchandise were other sources of income. Economic condition. The economic condition of the people was, on the whole, very sound, for the country was extremely prosperous. People were well off and free from want. Agriculture formed the main occupation of the people. The country saw the growth of industry. Bengal and Gujarat were famous for manufacture and export of cotton textile goods. But the tillers of the soil had to work hard for their bread, while the upper class people rolled in luxury and pomp. Religious condition. There were three religions, namely Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism, prevalent in the country on the eve of Arab conquest. Jainism was not a popular religion, and Buddhism was on the decline. Hinduism was the most important religion of the people in the land. Most of the kings were Hindus, and they would take measures for the patronage of Hinduism. The priestly class of Brahmins, who occupied a very important position in the society, exploited the masses. Regarding their power and position, Professor Habib says, "The Brahmins deliberately kept the people in a state of ignorance. The less scrupulous Brahmins not only earned their livelihood, but established their authority by preying upon the weakness and fears of the multitude. The Brahmanical revival and its aggressive measures created animosity among the Buddhists, who, in order to avoid the Hindu rulers, welcomed the Arab invaders of Sindh." Social condition. In the beginning of the 8th century AD, society was divided into four main castes: the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras. Each caste did not strictly adhere to its own functions. There were Brahmins who were working as warriors and the Kshatriyas working as merchants. Likewise, certain Vaishyas and Sudras were acting as rulers. In most cases, people married within their castes, and intercaste marriages were very rare. Polygamy was practiced in the society, but women were not allowed to marry a second time. Untouchability was in vogue. The practice of sati was becoming popular among the ruling families. Most of the people were vegetarians and they abstained from taking even onions and garlic. There were schools and colleges all over the country for the education of the people. The universities of Nalanda in Bihar and Vallabhi in western India were the most famous educational institutions in the country. There was a Sanskrit college at Dhar in Malwa and another at Ajmer. Besides the Vedas and Shastras, other subjects such as science, astronomy, and medicine were taught in these universities and colleges.